Thank you, and thank you very much for asking me to come to this event and talk a little bit about what we do as a company. So we are Volt Motorcycles. Motorcycles is a little different than cars, of course, and sometimes people forget that in the realms of electric vehicles, that two-wheel vehicles actually play quite an important role, because whether you're in an internal combustion engine vehicle or an electric car, technically you're still sitting in a car, and love them or hate them, motorbikes and scooters do play a part because they help aid congestion. And this was one of the reasons why I got involved a number of years ago, why I started developing this project. Also, there's a lot of benefits because I didn't have to build a left or right-hand drive vehicle. It was just one. And the entry into this kind of market would hopefully be easier and potentially less expensive for me. That wasn't necessarily the case, but anyway, here's where we are now at this moment. Our actual subtext or slogan is driven by technology. And one of the things we wanted to encompass is obviously technology in our vehicles, because we were going from what the traditional market used to new technology, and that's everything to do with electric vehicles. We're based down in Wexford, and here's the building that we work out of. We call it kind of the TARDIS. It looks a little small in the front, but actually goes quite large way in around towards the back. And this is some of the bikes that we do. So we have the Volt 60, which is our retro-styled model. It's a big selling kind of stylized model in the likes of Italy and the southern European countries, because they love and have a great history and heritage for the likes of Vespa and Piaggios as well. And the reason why we have different models is we design them specifically to meet different criteria for different people. We have the Volt 70, which is a traditional scooter, looks like any other scooter, but it's electric. We have the Volt 80, which is a kind of a half motorbike, half scooter hybrid. It's a cool and funky bike, and it's aimed primarily at the kind of younger youth market, or what we call the Facebook generation. Then we have the Volt 90, which is a larger bike. It's faster. It's what's called or classed as a maxi scooter. And who says, you know, electric can't be cool or can't be fun? Well, this is our 220, which you'll see on your right-hand side up on the stage. So this is our big kind of racing-inspired bike. So currently we have 5 models. We have another 2 in development. So then we will have 7, our sweet spot of 7 vehicles. And we'll actually have the largest range of electric two-wheel vehicles out there in the market. So we wanted to specifically design, as I say, different models of vehicles for different people and different markets. Since we're in this electric space, and we obviously saw there was a need, and there's a growing trend for e-bikes, we said, well, look, we have some of this technology and some of this experience anyway. Why don't we get into electric bicycles as well? I didn't want to get into creating a huge range of them, but we said, look, we would just do 2, which would allow us into the on-road and then the off-road. And you can see these are the Lizard Street and the Lizard Outback. The Lizard Street, again, it's, and I see this a lot with a lot of e-bikes, there's a huge amount of them coming onto the market. And a lot of them are what I class as not electric bikes, but they're bikes that are electric. It's your bike, and then they put an ugly lump of a battery in the back, and they put it to the market as an electric bike. So I always think there has to be some kind of form of design in it to make them stand out a little better. And one of the things we wanted to get, and one of the things which Quentin mentioned there earlier on, is that we also wanted to have that flexibility, that maybe somebody didn't want to cycle the entire length of their journey into work. So the Lizard Street is a fully foldable bike, so you can fold the bike and put it into your car if you wish to drive to a location, and then have the rest of the way going into by bike. So we have obviously traditional challenges like any company would have. So traditional challenges are the likes of our marketing departments, the picking up what photographs, how we're going to represent these kind of bikes to the market. We also have great fun with the new sparks who work in the company. Is do we cut the red wire? Do we cut the blue wire? You choose. Challenges for the design team who try to interpret what I call my napkin scribbles and my initial starts in my designs, and then eventually what they interpret as my final designs. And that Volt 90, which you saw beforehand, it was a very rough model. It's actually changed 90% of its design, and that's what you see there today as the final design and how it will look. Top right-hand side is the image is actually us working on the old Volt 90, as it were, and doing day-to-day bits and pieces that we find. One of the big things that we find, I suppose, as a company, is that we have kind of a twofold. We have our day-to-day work that we do in doing all the business that we actually have as a normal company, but we also have our kind of educational hat. And we have to educate people, and I have to remind people, and the naysayers, and the people who say, oh, electric's a nasty idea, and it won't work. You think? Electric vehicles are very much here and now. And whether you like it or not, you will all be driving electric vehicles in the not too distant future. I always have to remind people, we have a lot of electric technology in vehicles already. We have electric trains, we have electric trams, we have new electric boats being built. We have the likes of Boeing who are investing in electric aeroplanes. So there has to be something in it. So part of our business is educating people and realizing that things are changing somewhat, and they have to kind of address these and kind of move with the times. And I know when I saw Applegreen earlier on mentioning, and very interestingly, they're talking about that forecourt and how things are changing. And I've always said this, that the forecourt is going to be very much changing to being a refueling station for the car, be it electric, and also for the humans. And by their own admission, 30% of their profits only come from fuel. So where are they making the rest of their money? It's from food, it's from all these ancillary things. So this is we help to educate people to kind of suggest, look, from our perspective, how we think the future is kind of going as well. And also, hopefully, that governments will also listen to us. So, we had to try and, I suppose, move from what is the traditional noisy vehicles to quiet, silent electric vehicles. However, the EU have some legislation which they're hoping to introduce, which will actually make EVs have the same noise or equivalent to their internal combustion engines. I do hope that doesn't happen. I know they're trying to push it through as a safety feature, but they have to understand that pollution is actually twofold. It's physical pollution, and there's noise pollution. And a lot of noisy vehicles aren't particularly nice or sexy, so we have to get rid of that. Pollution is obviously a major issue, and obviously you don't have that same issue with electric. And we're talking about tailpipe emissions here. Also, we wanted to make our vehicles easy to use. So going from the complex, very difficult functions and items in a traditional motorcycle to making it easy. And sometimes the motorcycle guys are quite traditional in their way and their thinking, but we've tried to kind of make that as easy as possible going across. And we have a facility on our bikes. It's actually quite like the Nissan Leaf. You have your new drive, intelligent drive. It's a bit like that on our acceleration. There's the fact that there's regenerative braking in as well. So as you drive, you accelerate, and as you bleed off like this, it actually slows down the vehicle. So it's actually quite a different way, and quite a natural way of driving once you get used to it. So, technology obviously is a big part of what we're doing, and we have to be able to move quickly and rapidly because technology changes rapidly. If you move slowly, you get left behind. So battery technology is a big area. You can see the original batteries that we had on the left-hand side on the top up there, image there. And this was the traditional battery. This is like the old circular, hole in a square peg. The circular batteries are not exactly efficient use of space, simply because they're cylindrical. And it's like having circular hay bales. You've all these gaps in between. So obviously newer battery technology has come out, prismatic or pouch type cells, and we've utilized these now in our latest models of our vehicles. We all have alarms on our bikes as well, and obviously everyone wants to have an alarm. They're very touch sensitive. As soon as you touch the bike, the alarm will go off. We have tracking devices, GPS tracking devices, so we can track these vehicles. These type of things should help impact the likes of the insurance companies, because it should lower your premium, because you're able to track, as we've seen some of the technology, right down to a centimeter, 2 centimeters of the location. So it should help reduce your insurance premium. If not, remind them to do so. USB charging points and integration. Initially, we decided the first generation of our vehicles, we wanted to just have a USB port simply because people want to put their smartphone there, whether they used GPS technology for their maps or otherwise, that they can at least integrate it into the bikes. And eventually, we will have more full integration with smartphones. Bike unlock. Now this type of scenario, I suppose, is not new technology. A lot of the car manufacturers are using it where they have a bracelet which they use just to tap on the vehicle and unlock their car. So again, we're looking into developing some of these as well with third-party companies whereby a bike wearer can literally, because doesn't have to worry about keys because they get broken, stuck, they're difficult, or more importantly, when you've got all your full leathers on, you suddenly realize, where's my keys? So the fact is you can just use your bracelet to actually physically unlock and start the vehicle. Bike SOS is an interesting one, and it's one that's going to take us quite a while, I suppose, to develop and work with a lot of third-party companies, including emergency services. But you can imagine a scenario which I would like to see, which means that you have, in the unfortunate event of an accident, the rider will come off. There's a sensor which detects that the vehicle is not moving, but it's on its side. The fact is then you have Alexa or Siri or one of these people who asks the rider, are you okay? Maybe 3 times. It doesn't get a response. It will automatically call the emergency services or ask you, can I call the emergency services? It will do so. The emergency services will get the information. They will also then be able to pick up on the data coming from either, for example, an Apple Watch or some other technological wearable, and that will be able to send that information to the emergency services to allow them to notify them exactly what's happening with this person and obviously where the location of this person is. Charging infrastructure. Currently, of course, we've all talked about charging infrastructure and lack of charging infrastructure and the issues that we have. Our vehicles are, of course, because we have a limitation in relation to the size and the shape of the bike, we can only put so much battery technology in it. And obviously, we've designed our bikes with a very special, what we call a V-box scenario, which allows us to dynamically change with technology as new battery technology comes out. So when the new lithium air or otherwise batteries come out, we'll happily switch it in a heartbeat. And you have to have this constant move with technology. But charging is, at the moment, there are various different levels of charging, there's different connections and all the rest as well. And we've decided, at the moment, we go to a simple standard household plug. That's all you need to do. And we've talked with governments, and we've said to them, you know what, for light electric vehicles, why don't you already put in the charging infrastructure? It's already there, it's everywhere. And they kind of look at you with 2 heads, and you kind of say, well, you've got street lights everywhere. You've got street lamp posts everywhere all over the world. In fact, hang on, you've also got a panel on the side of the street lamp. Perfect. Take it off, put a new panel on. There's hundreds of companies out there who help you do this technology, and let's have charging points for light electric vehicles. Now, there isn't the power in the likes of standard lamps for the likes of larger vehicles such as cars, but for light electric vehicles, it's perfect. And it's perfect for now. That can be easily integrated and could also be upgraded in the future. A wireless future. Technology is moving very much in this direction. We've seen it with cars, and I do foresee, and I do hope to see very soon, getting rid of the likes of plug. Who wants to plug in things all the time? It's pissing rain outside. I just want to drive up, park, get out, run in, bring the kids, whatever as well, and don't have to worry about plugging in all the time. And this technology already exists. There's a lot of companies out there developing platforms which are either wireless or they pull up to a contact point. So this type of technology will happen. We're also thinking about it as well, and it's coming from the bike world. You see this little pad on the right-hand side. It's a wireless charging pad where the bicycles put up beside each other on e-bikes and charge. So again, it's something we're looking at developing for the likes of light electric vehicles such as motorcycles. Camera, HUDs, and helmets. Again, this is technology. There's a couple of companies already developing this as well, because as the rider, you're very much in tune with everything that you're doing on the road. So one of the things is that if you don't need to take your head off where you're looking for a slight second, even if it's just to look down at your maps or otherwise, it's far better to have something projected within the actual camera of the helmets. Of course, they're quite expensive technology, but as this rapidly develops, it will bring down the price. So this is something we're looking into as well. Clothes and wearables. There's a whole minefield, I won't get into it today as well, about different technology that can pressure sensor onto between the rider and the vehicle. And again, this is in relation to do with safety, and there are products out there when you fall off as well. It's like airbags for motorcycles again. But again, we're not getting into that, but we're just looking to see what's happening in that industry and keeping abreast of it. One of the things we have to do is be able to do fast redesign. It's a very rapidly moving market. So again, we use cutting edge technology. Everything that we do is all computer based. We have design, as you can see there, redesigning things. We use virtual reality as well for actually looking at the bikes and seeing how they feel. And we use this completely as a very fast and rapid moving technology. We don't use clay modeling at all. I'm sorry, and it's a very nice industry, and it's a wonderful thing to do, but we don't use it. We don't see the need to do it. We do it all in a virtual reality world. So, the future. The EU regulations I touched on, of course, we always have to keep abreast of that, and if there are new regulations that come out there, we have to adhere to these regulations and change our manufacturing process to accommodate that. Autonomous cars, of course, the big thing we talk about here, and autonomy and radar detectors and all this technology coming into cars, and we always have to keep abreast of this to kind of see how it integrates with us. And I saw an interesting talk yesterday, I think it was from Bosch, and they were talking about how they were detecting the various different vehicles and items on the road coming towards them. And obviously for us it's very important that the likes of these technologies detect us as bikes and bicycles, because we're smaller on the road, to make sure that they detect us as well if we happen to, because we move and we're less autonomous, we're very much more being in control with the actual rider. Wireless charging is obviously something as well that is very much going to come in the future, in the next, not too distant future, is what we firmly believe. And health. Funnily enough, one of the most important things in our lives are our health. And it's the big issue that I keep on putting people back to. It's the one reason that we actually have to do this. So whether it's people who like petrol or diesel or otherwise as well, they have to understand that we actually have to go to electric. And it's not the fact that we have to. We will go there irrespective anyway of the naysayers who don't like it. We're going in that direction anyway. So whether they like it or not, they have to catch up. Health is a big problem. Our air pollution is at an all incredibly high. The World Health Organization is saying that our air pollution in the world is similar to active smoking actually now. So we're getting to the stage that I'm standing in a city and I'm smoking, but I'm just breathing normal air. And I'm going to leave you with some statistics in relation to that too. 9 out of 10 people worldwide breathe polluted air. Over 80% of the world's cities have air pollution levels over the World Health Organization's guidelines. 92% of people living in cities do not breathe safe air. 36% of lung cancer, 34% of stroke deaths, and 27% of heart disease is all attributed to air pollution. 3 million deaths globally each year attributed to air pollution. 91% of population live in places where they exceed the World Health Organization guidelines. 400,000 deaths in Europe alone are attributed to poor air. And to put it into an Irish context, 1,500 deaths in this country every year are as a direct result of poor air. And we think we live in a clean country. 1 in 5 children in Ireland suffer from asthma. That's a staggering figure. Now, of course, vehicles are only one part of the pollution problem, but it can be easily resolved. So it's time we start thinking about getting on our electric vehicles and being part of this, this solution. One other thing in relation to, which I'll leave you at, we all talk about early adopters and people wanting to adopt. Many years ago, AT&T commissioned a survey with McKinsey. In 1980, I think it was how many people are going to be using mobile phones in the future, in the year 2000. And McKinsey went off and did their research, and they came back and they said they reckon that about 900,000 people would probably use mobile phones in the year 2000. They were off by a long shot. It was actually 109 million. So they had underestimated it by 99% or something like that. So it's an important lesson, I think, to, although people sometimes are slow to change because they need education, once we educate these people, technology adoption is much more rapid. And you'll see it especially, not just in the younger generations, because they're in the Facebook generation of getting used to technology. They plug in all their their mobile phones and laptops anyway, so their method of transportation is not a leap of faith that they will do it. But in the older generation who are more informed, you'll find quite a quicker, rapid response rate once the education is out there. Thank you very much.